Here's how top performing fundraising professionals schedule their day hour by hour. So if you're like most fundraisers, you probably have more than 40 hours of work a week to choose from. What I mean by that is there are so many mediums to bring revenue in through fundraising, and assuming you're a one full-time person with a 40-hour-a-week time slot, or maybe you're less than that, maybe you're a half-time fundraiser, and you have 20 hours a week to spend on fundraising, how could you possibly spend that time to maximize the organization's ROI, or return on investment, on you as a staff person? Well, to determine this, we surveyed all of our top performing clients, talked to all the individuals who are the best of the best in their fundraising, raising millions of dollars per year, and we just asked them, how do you schedule your day? How do you structure your schedule? And we took all that data and we combined it into one easy to digest, perfectly laid out day that you can borrow from. Now, of course, this is not the be all end all way. Feel free to take a little bit from this video and kind of customize it for you, for your organization, the total number of staff, the total number of hours that you have. But this should give you an idea, again, assuming 40 hours a week, one singular person. This is how one day should flow from start to finish with the correct percentages given to each task. Let's get into it. At the top of the day, we want 30 to 60 minutes for mindset and plan. When we first get into the office, or if maybe we're a remote worker, we're first sitting down at our desk, we don't necessarily want to jump right into deep work. Now, for some of you, that actually may be exactly what you want to do. And if you're doing a lot of the planning the night before, you do want to jump in and get right into that flow state that you like, depending on what kind of work you're doing. But a lot of our work as a fundraiser is communication. It's meetings, it's sending emails, it's phone calls. So because we're assuming that we're starting early in the morning, say we're starting at like 8:30 first thing, or 8 o'clock in the morning, there's not necessarily going to be as many people to call at that hour. So this is all just kind of dialing it in, setting your intentions for the day, and making a plan. Here are the things that I like to do. I like to pick the one big task. This is if my whole day blows up, and in my line of work, sometimes my whole day does blow up, and I plan to do all these things, and by the end of the day, I've only gotten 2 of those things done because these new tasks and fires I have to put out come to the day. That's all part of it, but I will still do my best to pick one singular task and say, you know, if my entire day goes to hell, I will have done this thing, and I'll feel great about having done this thing. So the very first thing I'm gonna do, sitting down, I'm gonna set an intention, get my mindset right of, this is the task I'm going to do. I'm gonna prioritize this, I'm gonna figure out how to get this. If I get to the end of the day and I've got nothing else done, it's all good, because I got my one task done. If I have others, I'll have 3 maintenance or smaller tasks. Now, there are lots of methods to kind of being productive and setting intentions and getting your to-do list done. But if you have one main task, and if you're able to knock that out, kind of 3 maintenance-y things that you want to get done, that's about what you can do. If you want to try to crank through 10, 12, 15 to-do list items, that's awesome. I would love to hear from you on how you do that, because I would love to implement some of your strategy into my own day. So definitely leave a comment if you've got some advice for me. But if I can get to 3 kind of maintenance to-doist tasks in addition to the one main task, I'm feeling pretty good. Now, instead of just guessing or just looking at my to-do list and picking some things, I think about what are the biggest needle movers in my day. If I got just this done, what makes the rest of the list irrelevant? Lots of productivity type influencers preach this kind of method to walk through. If say you have 20 items on your to-do list, what are the 4 or 5 things that make the remainder of the things not important anymore? So I help kind of identify that. I make a plan, not just that I'm going to do it, but I'm actually gonna take those things and I'm gonna schedule them. I'm gonna put them in different blocks in my day. I'm gonna put them on my calendar, or if I have a deep work or a focused block scheduled on my calendar, I'm gonna actually insert and tell myself, these are when I'm gonna do these things. This is exactly when. Got my one big task, got my maintenance task, I get everything scheduled. I allow myself up to the first hour just to think through and plan, but if you can get it done in 30 minutes, that's what you want to do. So first thing, 30 to 60 minutes, mindset and plan. Now the next thing, 60 minutes or less. This might be controversial, but this is when you're going to answer email and messages. Gasp. The reason I do it in this order, if I start with what's important to me, I tend to move the needle on the things that matter that I need to get done. If I start right in by looking at my emails and messages and Microsoft Teams or Slack or whatever message system that you use to kind of get your inbound messages from your team and from your donors, from your clients, whatever, they kind of get to dictate what's important to you that day. So I'm gonna come into the day saying, here's what I believe to be important. I'm gonna figure that out first, and then I'm gonna catch up on email. I also do my best to not check email continuously. I don't let emails continue to flood and ping my inbox, change my computer notifications. It's just a disaster in terms of trying to get into a workflow when there's people asking for stuff. Some jobs may require you to do this, but in most fundraising roles, you can wait 3, 4, 5 hours to answer an email, and that's totally socially acceptable to have that kind of lead time. So after I've made the plan, I figured out what I want to do, I've scheduled it, then I want to go in and answer email and messages. Maybe it takes me less. I'm going to give myself up to 60 minutes to do this, but hopefully less. Now, my method for processing email or processing messages is it goes into one of 5 buckets. So for every single email or message that I have, it is either going to be read and delete immediately. This might be like spam or junk or advertisements or blogs or whatever. Something that comes to your inbox, you don't really need to do anything. It could be read later, which is like, ooh, that's actually a really good blog email, but I don't have time to read for 15 minutes right now. I'm gonna put it into like a save or archive folder. The next is, I don't need to read this, but I do need to have it for later. So I'm just going to archive it, maybe with some keywords, maybe I save it into a folder, maybe someone emailed me a PDF that I just have to hang on to, so I just sort it. It could become a task, someone emails you, hey, can you drop the blah, 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 or can you send me some information on blah, 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 blah. If I can't do it instantly, I put it on my to-do list, and if someone else can do it, I try to delegate it if I can. So every single email is gonna be one of these things. In theory, there's not a single email that doesn't fall into one of these 5 buckets. So as I'm answering and processing email messages, some of it is completing tasks, but mostly it's kind of getting through and processing the stuff to fit into my time later. So hopefully way less than 60 minutes, but in theory, we don't want to take more than an hour to do this. Hey, thanks for checking out our video. If you're getting value out of this but would like something more personalized, you can book 30 minutes with one of our experts to see if you qualify for our support services. Link below in the description. All right, next, 2+ hours on donor engagement. Now, what I mean by this is if we do not block at least 2 hours a day, or we've noticed that the top performing fundraising professionals that we have as clients or that we have in our network, if they're not spending at least 2 hours a day interfacing in some way directly with their donors, they're getting behind. This does not necessarily mean asking for money. It could be stewardship. It could be cultivation. It could be working with them one-on-one to set up a meeting with someone else. But whatever you're doing, you're engaging them directly in some way. Here are kind of a list of activities that fall into this category. Emails, calls, you can even have a meeting, thank you notes, whatever it means to you, but you want 2 hours directly interfacing with your people. This is outward reach. If you're gonna do it from your office, it needs to be proactive in terms of trying to set up appointments for you out of the office. Obviously, you wanna spend a lot of time out in the community talking to people, but to set those appointments, you have to have some time focused on this. So protecting this time and saying, I'm gonna get this done early in the day. So maybe say this is 8:30 if you start at 8 o'clock and now it's 9:30, maybe from 9:30 to 11:30. So this is the bulk of your morning I'm gonna spend on donor engagement. Now maybe some of your tasks or even your maintenance tasks might be like, I've gotta write 10 thank you notes, or I've gotta call back Sean, or I need to send those 2 emails. Like that's fine. These things can overlap. They can be the same task, but we have to focus on, and I would block it, put it in your calendar, 2 or more hours on donor engagement, directly interfacing with your donors and prospective donors in some way. The next is 1 to 2 hours for lunch. And you're saying, wait a second, that feels like a lot of time to take off. Unfortunately, I have to tell you that a lot of times for fundraising, lunch is not time off. Lunch is the time that we use to go have lunch with people and sit down with donors. Again, same kind of thing. This could be considered in-office donor engagement in the morning if it's like 9:30 and someone doesn't want to meet with you. If you are able to get out of the office in that time, all the better. But my goal always is to try to set, 1 to 2 lunches a week at a minimum where I'm having out with donors and cultivating and stewarding them for the next gift, or I'm trying to set up with new prospective donors to get that first gift. So I want to have those lunches out with people, kind of networking and growing my list of people or managing my portfolio of donors. If I don't have anyone to go out to lunch with, maybe I take a little bit less than that. Maybe it's 30 minutes to an hour, and that's totally fine. But we want to be out of the office, and having a second over a meal to break bread with someone, obviously a great idea. So we try to spend those couple hours at lunch, if we can, making headway. It's just kind of part of the job. After lunch, we ideally want to spend 1 to 2 hours moving along the campaign or the project. If you've been with Pride Philanthropy long enough, you know that we love to be in campaign mode. We're gonna raise an average of 6 to 10 times our kind of normal maintenance revenue in terms of philanthropy if we're in campaign or project mode. Specific task, specific deadline. There's always gonna be something to do during this time. So this could fall into donor meetings. If you got a way to meet with a donor and ask for money, that kind of takes precedent over these last three. All three of these could kind of fall into that category. But if you're not in a position where you can sit down with someone right away, kind of box it and say, okay, donor engagement first. I'm gonna do all the people-focused stuff, calls and emails and setting up meetings. And then hopefully I'm gonna have lunch with somebody and move a relationship along. And then hopefully I have some time in the afternoon to move along the campaign, move along the project, hit my big tasks. This might be a nice place to place some of your one big tasks or your maintenance tasks, depending on what those are. You can drop that in this bucket. This is obviously going to be kind of your early afternoon hour. So it might land like 1 to 3 o'clock or noon to 2 or somewhere in that range where you have that post-lunch lull of maybe you just finished meeting with someone. It might be the case you have to have inter-office meetings at this time. So you're doing your one-on-ones, you're meeting with your boss, you're meeting with your board. This could mean a lot of different things, but you're being intentional about, I'm making progress. I'm going to move the needle. I'm not just doing administrative nonsense. I'm moving the needle for whatever campaign or project that we're in right now. We've noticed that this is a common theme across all the fundraisers we talk to. They're blocking time in the afternoon to make sure that they always do this. After that's complete, we have a final 30 to 60 minutes of admin. Now, this could be, again, emails, get another round of emails in. It could just be random tasks, and we kind of keep this in the non-creative bucket. I'm more of a morning person. Maybe you are not. But regardless of what kind of a person you are, if you've done a lot of work today and you're into the 6 or 7 hours range of good quality work, including you had to take a lunch with a donor, your brain is maybe gonna move a little bit slower, and that's totally okay. So we reserve kind of our thoughtful, creative work and strategic work for earlier in the day, and then as we fatigue, that's when we do the little maintenance-y tasks, the ones that are like, it's annoying. We call them ankle-biting tasks that I don't really want to do, but they don't require as much thought. Like, I just want to process payroll, or I want to open the mail, or I want to go back to emails and just kind of clean up some of those things. I don't want to do any like planning type tasks. Ideally, I don't want to do any like creative brainstorming type tasks or creation. Maybe have another meeting there, that's fine. But this is kind of where we have a catch-all for admin tasks. The advantage here, and what I would really encourage you to do, instead of peppering your admin task kind of throughout the day, just batch them. Just say, hey, I got that time at 3 o'clock or maybe 3:30, or we have this 30 minutes to an hour, and we just do all of our admin tasks. All these kind of quick things that take 5 minutes, 10 minutes a piece. Just set a chunk of time, block it off, and knock them out all at once. And if you don't have time, you can move it on to tomorrow's list. But again, when you're tired, not having to do creative tasks is a huge difference. Now, if you have any time left in your day after that, say all of these are short, like we hit 30 here, less than 2 hours, 1 hour, then we're coming to the end of the day. We might have another 30 to 60 minutes remaining. Here's how we use that. Reflection and planning. Now, I know it feels like a lot to say, well, we already had like a reflection and planning here at the beginning of the day. Why do we need another hour at the end of the day? Well, first thing is you may not always end up with both of these. If you've been in fundraising for any amount of time, you realize that every day and every week are very different. Maybe on Tuesdays, your all hands is here, your team stand-up meeting is here, or maybe your team stand-up meeting is here. You're not gonna have this perfect day every single day, so we try to build in these blocks so that as you have things disrupt you, and every Thursday morning you have this, and you have to go to the post office, or whatever disrupts your day, you at least have one of these blocks available. So if you miss this top one, you can catch it again, kind of your reflection and planning. At the end of this day, this last 30, 60 minutes, I'm pretty tired. So like my ability to thoughtfully and intentionally plan my day at the end of the day is not great. It's really just kind of a look back. This is kind of the like, okay, I got these things done. I did not get this thing done. So I'm just gonna put a sticky note for myself. Hey, first thing in the morning, I gotta figure out this. Or maybe I use this to decide I've got one more task remaining. Or maybe I didn't quite get all the emails in my admin, so I'm gonna use a couple more minutes here. I'm gonna let this kind of admin block bleed a little bit into my reflection and planning for tomorrow. This is particularly useful on a Friday afternoon. I find that people don't like to meet on Friday afternoons. A lot of people take off like a day a week, or some people work 4/10s where they're taking Fridays off entirely. You're leaving for the weekend, there's a lot of holidays. So like a Friday afternoon is a key spot to be like, let's just talk about how the week went. Let's go through all the things we got done, and let's see if we can set our intention, our big tasks for next week. And I know that this looks complex and we're like, well, why do you have all these different buckets? The philosophy of setting this out as a whole, and what we noticed about the top fundraisers that are performing at a super high level, they're bringing in lots and lots of money for their organization, is they're batching stuff. They're taking like tasks and they're putting them in buckets and they're scheduling them onto their calendar as blocks of time so they can do things that are in the kind of same mind space all the way through. Again, I would encourage you to take this and customize it for yourself. This isn't the perfect thing. This is just kind of the rolling average that we noticed when we talked to our top performing fundraisers within our network. So if you're way smarter in the afternoon and you're not a morning person, maybe take your admin piece and put it first. You're like, I'm not awake yet. I'm like 1 cup of coffee in, that's not enough for me, whatever it might be, but I'm gonna take my admin and kind of do those easy tasks where I don't have to think as hard right off the bat. Or like, you know what, I really do want to answer emails first. I feel more at peace with inbox 0. That's just like a thing I know about myself. It's like, great, then switch these two. So the order matters a little bit less and you should customize it to you, but really the theme and takeaway here is building and creating time for the things that matter. Donor engagement, major gifts, moving along your project, going out and meeting with people. All these things that we will let lapse if we get kind of bogged down into the admin piece. So just use this as a general framework and hopefully you can work your way to being a top fundraiser as well. You know, I don't ask this very often, but you know, if you could subscribe to the channel, that would mean a lot. We're really working hard to build what we think is going to be the largest educational resource for fundraisers on the entire internet. And all we'd like in exchange is just to kind of grow the engagement. So do all the things that you know work. Subscribe to the channel. If you enjoyed the video, you can like the video. If you have questions, you can comment. All these things help us out. We're going to try to continue to put out as much good information as possible, and it really makes a difference if you can do that for us. So take a second, hit like, hit subscribe, all the things that every YouTuber asks you to do. We'll see you all in the next video.